it sounds very positive, and I know that the business community has been talking about education reform for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And when you're out in the communities and you're talking with business folks, what are you hearing out there now? Are they pleased with the progress? Do they want more? What's the status of our progress in the state of Idaho?
Well, what I hear from the business community is that they're encouraged by the conversations. They're encouraged that the legislature and the governor and those that are elected to lead are willing to take the lead on education reform. But what they're still waiting for are the results, right? And what our business community struggles with, and I come from the business world, I understand this, is that we're educating children, and in Idaho I think we do a good job of that, but we need to do a great job, and that transition from good schools to great schools is the struggle that we're having today. Just like any business, the biggest challenge to a great business is a good business, because we become very comfortable with good. And that's the same struggle we have with many of our schools. We have good schools. We need great schools. I think the business community understands that. I talk to business people all over the state that have positions that, even with high unemployment, they have positions that are open today, and the only thing stopping them from filling that position is they cannot find a candidate that, although has a high school graduate, maybe even some college, but does not have the skills and knowledge necessary to meet the requirements of that job. That's a big issue. One of the things we struggle with in Idaho today is that our tax base is small, and so we have a finite amount of money that's available, and we spend almost half of that on education. If we need more money for education, let's grow that pie. We don't need to tax people more to do that. We just need to have more people earning higher income, and that in and of itself will generate more income that will help schools. So I've always said, I don't want to ramble on too much here, but I've always said that there's a direct, inseparable link between a high-quality education system and a growing, robust economy. You can't have one without the other. It does take a growing economy to provide the tax base necessary to fund a high-quality education system, and you have to have a high-quality education system to provide a workforce with the skills necessary to meet the needs of a growing economy. If you neglect one, eventually the other will suffer.
Great. Well, for the business community, since this is going to the business community out there, what should we be working on from the outside in? In your opinion, what would be our best use of our resources and our time and effort in trying to improve the education system in the state?
Well, I would go down to there's certain levels, and the most direct impact that the individual can have is I look at businesses in communities and the quality of many of their employees. I would encourage, if I was a business owner, I would continue to encourage my employees to be involved in their children's education. I mean, that's where it starts, right? And then I would encourage them to be to run for school boards, to be involved even at that level. The other thing that the business community as a whole can do is to expect high standards of our schools, high level of accountability, high level of transparency, and then parents need to understand that there are certain skills and certain knowledges that a student needs to have in the 21st century if a business is going to be able to hire them. And if schools aren't teaching those standards at that high level, if they're not giving students the opportunity to learn those skills and gain that knowledge, they're not going to be able to have gainful employment after they leave school. And so I think just being a champion of a continual improvement of our schools and making sure that parents understand that if they want their children to be successful as adults, our K-12 education system, which is good, needs to become great, and then help at the local level to make that happen.
You and I talked offline about this, the constitutional structure of Idaho with respect to your position as a superintendent of schools, and your counterparts across the states have several different positions. Talk briefly about what happened in Wyoming and Oregon, where they've sort of switched up how the superintendent is handled, and give us your opinion on that.
Well, I'll tell you, across the nation, there's 50 state superintendents like myself, and it works out to basically about a third of us are elected, a third of us are appointed by governors, and a third are appointed by school boards, state boards of education. And depends on who you talk to, which one they think is the best way to go. I do believe that there are some qualities to those to those states where the governor actually appoints the state superintendent, because it just takes accountability to a higher level. You have one person to point to when it comes to education, whether it's funding, whether it's results, whether it's quality. Where when you have the position that's appointed by a state board of education or one that's elected, then you can have the situation where the governor and the state superintendent are just pointing their finger at each other. We haven't dealt with that as long as I've been state superintendent. Governor Otter and I have gotten along very well and been on the same page when it comes to education. This would be a very frustrating position to be elected and to have an elected governor and not on the same page. So I've always thought that possibly the model that brings the highest level of accountability is the one where the governor appoints, because then the governor is ultimately responsible for the results of education in his or her state.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, this is a fascinating interview, and we look forward to having you back if you wouldn't mind, maybe after the task force and the interim committee has their work done, and we can sort of figure out what our agenda is going to be. That would be fantastic.
All right.
And thank you all for watching this edition of Policy Connections, and we look forward to tuning in for more.